Hi everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel Project MIS and thank you so much for watching this video. We'll start with the previous video's recap and then we'll continue with this video. So in my previous video we have spoken about Scrum ceremonies and all four types of Scrum ceremonies like sprint planning, daily Scrum, sprint review and sprint retrospective. So when we are going to start the sprint, before that we have to perform a sprint planning in brief. Then once a sprint starts, from day 1 till day 5 or day 10 or day 15, whatever is the period of the sprint, for that many days, every day we will be performing daily scrum for 15 minutes of time box activity. And when the sprint gets over on the last day of the sprint, we perform a sprint review. And then at last, once the sprint gets over, then we go for a sprint retrospective and just to understand how things went during the sprint. So that's in brief about Scrum ceremonies. The main agenda for this video is to understand how these Scrum ceremonies will be performed on Jira. For that, we have to start with the use case. First we have to pick one use case which can be chosen to create the backlog. First thing is to make a structure of the backlog, that how many epic stories and tasks, and then once we have that use case ready with us, then we will start with Jira hands-on and create new project, create backlog, and then we'll start with the Scrum ceremonies. So let's start with the use case selection. So here we start with the use case selection. I have taken one very common and one very generic use case which is quite popular these days, and that is online bookstore. It can be any store. So the key idea is e-commerce website. So on this particular example, this use case online bookstore, we have designed one backlog with three epic and a few stories. So I assume that you are familiar with all Jira issues like epic, story, task, bug, defects, etc. So the first epic we have created for user authentication. Under this epic, we have created three stories, and under this story, we will be performing how we can the user how user can create the account, how user will be able to log into the account, and how if user forget the password, then how the password will be reset. The second epic is about product catalog. Any online store. In this particular case, we are talking about bookstore. So first task will be to show all the books, whatever is available for this store. And when any of the book is chosen, then we have to show the details pertaining to that selected book. So the second epic will talk about product catalog. And then the third epic is about shopping cart. So if I choose the book, then I have to add that book into shopping cart, and then if I have to make some amendment in the shopping cart, how that can be done. And once the shopping cart is finalized, then how I can see the total price and do a purchase. So that's a simple use case. Now how we are going to do the virtual run for this. So, so first thing we will be creating a project in Jira, and then we'll start creating these epic story first into Jira so that we can see how the backlog is created. I am not going to use a pre-created project in Jira. Otherwise, it will not be very clear for you people to understand how backlog is created. So let's start with creating the backlog. So here we are on Jira software. People who are very new to Jira, for them. So whenever you have a Jira to open, you will be having certain URL which you can add in your favorite, or you can save it somewhere so that you can start Jira. Now this is the in brief how the navigation work. So in the top side, you will see the menus, like what we use for Jira, and then here what we see, the project whatever I have created. I am going to start by creating a new project. Create project. Which framework I am going to use? I am going to use Scrum framework because we are talking particularly about Scrum ceremonies. So when I choose Scrum, this inside Jira, it has certain details about Scrum which is given here. You can read it and you can understand. Okay, so I'm just selecting Scrum as the framework and clicking on use template at this particular place in the bottom right. Now after that, there is an option to choose a project type. So it can be team managed project or it can be company managed project. It's about who has the Jira admin capacity. So if I choose for company managed, then the only Jira admin will have the authority to control the administration. So I am going to choose company managed project because this is the environment where all corporate works. Now add project detail. I have to give certain name to the project. Okay. So project MIS demo. Project MIS demo. And by after giving the name, Jira has automatically assigned a key. Key is nothing, just an abbreviation which will be used to identify all the issues we are going to create for this particular project. So you can refer a certain issue. Just to reconfirm, when I say issue, it's a type of different issue types in Jira. It can be task, subtask, story, epic, bug, defect. All these are referred as Jira issues. Okay. Now we have given the name. Key has been taken as a PMS. We have chosen Scrum as a framework, and then in the project type we have chosen company managed. And now I click on next. I'm directly going to the project. Go to project, and now this project is open. How will I know this project is open? If you click down on this project menu, I can see the project what we have created, project MIS demo, and the key is PMS. Okay. Now, and to understand the navigation, if you see in the top of this work area, it is showing the path, we are in the project, and which project, PMIS demo, and then PMS board. But what we see, the PMS board is empty, and it says there are no active sprint, start sprint in the backlog. So Jira has certain messages to understand how we have to proceed. Okay, so this is the active sprint board, but there is nothing as of now. Now when I see in the left hand side bar, it is giving you different choices where we can go and use these as per our requirement. Timeline, backlog, active sprint, report, issues, component, code, releases, all are used for different purposes, but we are not going to talk about this because the objective of this session is something different. So we are only going to talk about backlog for now. Okay, but when I go to backlog, I see nothing because we have not created the backlog itself. Okay, so this is the backlog which says zero issues, means I have to create the backlog. How I am going to create the backlog? Okay, so first thing is important to understand is that we have seen one use case where we see that we have three different epic, and under each epic we have certain stories. So how I am going to create those backlog? Okay, so let's start creating the backlog. I will click on this create. When I click on this create button, first thing, it says issue types. Okay, so to make it clear to understand, so that you can understand what and where we are doing certain activity. Project, which project we are creating the issue. PMIS demo. PMS is the key. Okay, what I'm going to create first, I'm going to create first epic. Okay, epic name. What is the epic name? We have seen that in the use case scenario, that is implement user authentication. Okay, summary. To save some time, I'm just writing same thing here, user case authentication. But you can write something more, like this epic is created to create to user authentication screen, where user can create their account, can log into the account, can log out from the account, and if they forget the password, they can reset the password also, something like that. Description, you can write in detail, like under this epic what all function you are going to perform. So this will help you to understand when you read the epic. It will help you to understand what all tasks we are going to perform inside it. Okay, so first, these are the details I have given. Now, reporter is like whoever is creating the issue, his name automatically pops as reporter. Okay, reporter is none who should be scrum master in our scenario. Okay, now assignee, who will be accountable for this particular epic. Okay, for now, because we have not created any user, let me assign this to myself only. So I should be taking care of this epic. Priority. Is it going to be first priority? Yes, because this is the first story I am creating, and as a product and the product owner, I can decide this is highest or high or medium or low priority. Okay, labels and all we are not going to cover now because it will take too much of time. And then I just create the epic. Okay, I have created the epic, first epic. Okay, now how will I see the epic? I have created the epic, but still I don't see anything in backlog. So epic will not be displayed in backlog. FII. We have to understand it. Okay, because epic is not the issue type where developers are actually going to work. Epic is just a classification. We have to create the story inside the epic. So now, how will I see epic? For that, in the left hand side vertical bar, we have to use issues. I went to issues and I see there is one epic is created. So just for your understanding, if you see this tabular uh, structure, on the first column type, it shows what is the issue type, and in this case it is epic. Second will show the key, the unique identification number for this project issue type. Okay, PMS1. What is the summary of the epic? What we have given, who is assignee, who is reporter, and then priority. So this priority is highest in this case because we have chosen highest, and status is to do. Status can be to do, in progress, or done. That we'll see how that changes. Okay. Now this is the epic I have created. Now what I am going to do, I am going to create two more epic. Okay, because we have seen three epics, right? Let me create the second epic. Create. Now project is PMS. Again I am creating epic, and the epic name 2 is implement product backlog. Save time. I'm copying the same thing, pasting here, and you can write a little detail about this. That what this epic is going to do is going to display all the products of our online store, and then it will also show the user the details about the selected product. Okay, reporter is my name. Then assignee, again I am taking the accountability, so I am assigning this to myself. Priority, let's choose high and click on create. Okay, so now second epic is also created. Now let me create the third epic. Epic, and third epic name is what? Implement shopping cart. Same thing, copying and pasting. Then in the description you can write this epic will let us add the product into the shopping cart, remove from shopping cart, check the final price, and make the final purchase. Okay, I'm just reporter submit my name, assignee myself, and this is medium. Let it be medium. So we have created three different epic. One with highest priority, second with high priority, and third with medium priority. Let's see how that looks. Okay, I created this also. Now I want to see that how many epics I have created. So I will just click on this. I'll just switch back to any of the option here, and again I will come back to issues. So Jira can be refreshed, and I can see all the issues I have created. Okay, so you see PMS 1, 2, 3, implement user authentication, implement product backlog, and implement shopping cart. And the first one says highest priority, second says high priority, and third says medium priority. So what this means? This means if anyone sees these list of issues, this list of epic, then they will understand first what is the preference for product owner. Product owner first want to pick user authentication, after that product backlog, and then shopping cart. Okay, 1 second. There's a small correction because we're talking about product backlog. So in that scenario, instead of writing product catalog, I have written product backlog. So I'm just correcting it to product catalog, saving it. Okay. So now again I will switch back, and again I will go back to other option, and again I will come back to issues. So I can see the changes. Okay. Implement product catalog. So now we have created Epic. Now let me go to implement user authentication. Okay, to save time, I'm not going to spend much time to write the detail of the story. I'm just writing in brief, like so what is the uh, summary of the story. So how will I create story inside this PMS1 epic? I will go to create. Here I will choose I want to create story and summary. What is the summary? As a user, I want to be able to create an account. I'm copying and pasting in the description. Okay, like this. I'm not going to talk about the details of user story and what should be the actual format and what all details we have to copy, because it will be a specific session and it will take too much time for now. So we are just covering the Scrum ceremony as of now. Okay. So I have pasted the same thing. The purpose of this story is to create an account, reporter Sumit, and assignee. If no one is there, let it be unassigned, because when the new developer is there, I will assign it. Okay. What is the priority? I want this to be picked at first, so I have given highest priority. Okay. Epic link. Now this particular option will help me to classify my story where it should reflect, because this is part of user authentication, so I'm going to choose user authentication. Okay, and then click on create. So one story is created. You want to see, then for that you have to go back and refresh the issues. And what here we see, that these three epic, and fourth one story is created. Okay, if you want to see a different place, I will show that. You can click on backlog. Okay, if you go to backlog, so in backlog you will not be able to see the epics, but you will be able to see the story, because this is the actual issue type on which developer will be working. And what it says under backlog, it says the first icon says what is the issue type, which is story, then the summary, what is that story about, and then it says, like, the name of the epic under which this story is mapped, and then the issue key, and then the priority, and then story point we have not given so far. Okay, now let me create the second story. Create story. Second story is, as a user, I want to be able to log in to my account. Copying and pasting here. Same thing. My name, unassigned, priority, high. Okay, so this is the second story to be picked inside this epic. Epic link is authentication, and I click on create. Now I see the second story also listed here. Okay, I'm just quickly creating the third story. As a user, I want to be able to reset my password. Okay, copying it, pasting it in the description. Assignee, unassigned, let it be medium. Epic under authentication, and create. So for first epic, all three stories are created. Now I am going to create the story for the second epic. Create story. Second story is, as a user, I want to browse a list of available books. Copying it, pasting here. Assignee, unassigned. For this story, for this epic, this is the first task to be picked. So I am giving this as the highest priority. Epic is the PMS2, product catalog, because this story is about product catalog, and I just create it. Okay, now we have got four stories. Let me create the fifth one. As a user, see the details of a book, and I click on it, copying it, pasting again, copy, paste, reporter myself, assignee, unassigned. The priority is high, the second task. Okay, epic is product catalog, and that's it. So now I have created the second one. Okay, now let me create the stories for third epic. Then we'll begin with our task. As a user, I want to add books to my copying it, pasting in the description, assigning unassigned first story which has to be performed at first for this epic. So highest epic link will be shopping cart. Okay, I hope this is clear for you people that how we are classifying the story inside epic. Okay, second one, as a user I want to remove items from my shopping cart. Copying it, pasting here, assigning unassigned. Second one, giving it high priority. Epic link will be shopping cart. That's it. Now the final one, third story. Okay. As a user, I want to see the total price of items in my cart. Copying it, pasting here, and assignee is unassigned. Let it be medium because the third one to be picked at last. Among these three, epic will be shopping cart and create. So now we are done with creating the backlog. Okay. Now if you see here, we see the backlog has 8 issues. Okay, and for each of these stories we see the respective epic name in the backlog. So here we also set the priority, like in terms of preference, like we can in terms of their location. So like how it is treated, like you can drag and you can change their position in the list. So if ideally, by seeing this backlog, how people interpret that whatever is on the top should be on the high priority, whatever is in the bottom should be on the lowest priority. That is how it is decided. But it is completely up to you how you are going to plan it. If this is the highest priority and this needs to be picked at first, then you can change their position and this will come at the top priority. Okay, so now let's see this way. So this on this particular epic you have three story: highest, high and medium priority. Under this epic you have two issues: highest and high priority. And under implement shopping cart, under this epic you have three issues: highest, high and medium priority. Okay, so that's what is about the creating the backlog. Now we will see how we are going to start the sprint planning. So how sprint planning will work? Sprint planning will be performed before starting the sprint, few days before the sprint start date. Okay, and who all will be joining the sprint planning call? Product owner, scrum master, and the scrum team. Okay. Now, if this call starts, then first thing will be spoken about by product owner is what is that he wants to be picked up for the upcoming sprint. To suppose in this particular case he says we are going to perform on this user authentication part. This is the first priority, and he will explain about that what all story he has written for each of under this epic, and what is the objective of that particular story. For example, the first one says, which is with the highest priority, it says as a user I want to be able to create an account. So he will share all details that that account has to be created by user. That is the functionality this story has to do. Then when you go for user screen, how the screen should look like, what all fields should be inside the screen, those details will be given by product owner. Then after that, the second story, now the user account is created and the credentials are saved in the database, whichever format the details has to be saved. Now the second story talks about the user should be presented one screen where user can log into the created account so that he can see the stuff inside his particular account. That is the second story. And then third story, so based on all this discussion, like the story point will be assigned. So story points are ideally a Fibonacci series number which is given for each of the story, and that is a comparative study or comparative way we assign a story point. So any story you have to start with one number, and all the other story you will be comparing from that particular story, how complex or how simple that story is, and based on that you will be assigning a next or prior Fibonacci series number. Okay, for example, in this particular case, developer 1, developer 2, developer 3, these people will be playing that planning poker game in Jira, that is also there, or they can play by card. So they will be having the card with the series of Fibonacci series numbers, and what based on their selection they will be presenting the card, so that the common number can be chosen among all the developers. So we are just going with some assumption that because we don't have developers as of now to see that the practical scenario, but if this case is presented, and in this particular case, if I clicked on this particular story, right, and in the story point column, Fibonacci series what starts with 1, then next one is 2, then 3, then 5, then 8, then 13. That is how the Fibonacci series goes. So if this story is has been given, suppose 3 story point, so now the other story will be compared with respect to this particular task. Developer know that how much, what kind of effort is, what kind of like you know uh, work is there for this particular story. Based on that, they can assign the story point for the other task also. So create an account if it has 3 story point, then log into my account, whether it is the same level of work or more work or less work. Based on that, in my recent example with the developer, I have seen that they are assigning the similar story point for login screen also. Now, resetting the password, it is easy or it is complex. It is comparatively easier because we have that credentials saved. If user wants to reset the password, then we have to authenticate whether the user is genuine or not. If yes, then we will let him reset his password and we'll send the confirmation message. Okay, your password is reset. This is simpler screen. So the story point has been given a previous number in Fibonacci series, which is prior to 3 is 2. Okay, so that's how like this story point is done. Same way, certain story point will be assigned for each of these story. So now this I want to browse a list of available books. So whatever number of books you have, that has to be displayed on the screen. This is the UI screen is going to be complex. The number of details you are going to put is going to be complex. Then you have to present sorting option, filter option. So many things are there. So definitely this seems to be a complex story. So here the story point what has been given is assume it is 5, which tells okay this is comparatively complex story than the earlier one. Now as a user I want to see the details, so now you are clicking on one particular book and only details about that one particular book has to be displayed. So this is not that complex as the previous one. So story point is been given as 3. Okay, now the same way I will do for this third epic also, and let's go with the third epic. So now I have the book. I have to design the shopping cart. So I click on add to cart, and that book will be added to shopping cart. This is at the level of complexity. This is similar to the earlier story, the first one what we did. So let it be story point 3. Then the I want to remove items. So items are there, we have to remove. So when I say remove, it has to be recorded in database, it has to be removed from shopping cart display has to be adjusted, pricing has to be adjusted. If any offer is applied based on the price, then after removing that offer has to be recalculated, something of that sort. So this is also similar level of work required than the previous one. So again story point is going to be same 3, and 3 is saved here. Now the last story, which is total of total price of the item. So as and when you are keep on adding the prices, sorry, product, your price will be recalculated, displayed, and then you will be clicking on purchase and you'll be routed to the payment gateway. It's pretty straightforward, not much complex too. So this is how we do here. This is how we add the story point. Now, what is important to understand? There is no right or wrong here. It is an estimate. Okay, so it differ from person to person. If there are 5 developer and 3 are experienced developer, then the story point may differ. If there are 5 developer and only one is senior most, rest all are very very junior, in that case the story point may differ, because how the story point will be agreed, it is agreed based on the majority and the common consensus. So if more juniors are there, then the overall time required will be different. If senior people are there, which they have already worked on this kind of activity, so they will be it will be very convenient for them to develop this, so they will be taking it as a lighter story. So that's how it differs. So it's an estimate. Now what is important I want to mention here, story point is one thing, effort required for each of these stories is different. Okay, in in some corporates, people do not prefer to go for story point. Instead, they also want to write the number of days required for these stories as a story point. So if you see 3, then few people in the organization they prefer to go that way. So and they read like this. So if I see 3, it means this require 3 days of work. If I read it 5, it means it require 5 days of work. So it is completely up to us, what is preferable for us, which works good for the team. That's how you can proceed. But I'm using the Fibonacci series story point example, because that is how it was recommended in extreme planning, extreme programming framework under agile. Okay, so now let's go with the creating the sprint. So now I have this particular details. Now when I go inside this particular story and we discuss with the developers, so how will we come to know that how much time is required? Okay, so first thing, let me click on this particular place on the issue number, so it will display only that particular issue. Okay, so now I see, as a user I want to be able to create an account. Now you are having discussion with the developers, and developers are telling, okay, so to do this we have to do these 3 set of tasks, and they will start creating the task inside it. Okay, what is the task one says? Okay, so create registration form user interface. Okay, in simple mockup, you can say mockup and user screen, or let it be user screen. So create. Okay, so I have created one subtask. Now second, then users after that, like the second subtask what is suggested by developer is implement user registration logic. Okay, there should be logic, right? When you are creating the user, there are certain checks needs to be done. Okay, this user has to be added. User is already registered, or it is first time it is registering, those details. And add validation for user input. Okay, so developers are telling, okay, if you have to do this task, first you have to create this. Okay, so let me go to the first task now. Create registration form. Okay, so they will be using React.js, Angular, HTML, or whatever is the language being used for front end development, so that they can design the form. And assume, like they say it require 20 hours of work. So how we are going to manage it? So for every task, every story, like you can mention how much estimate is required for that. Okay, so here it says original estimate 0 minute, but I can click on it, and because developers are telling it required 20 hour of work. So the moment I say 20h, okay, before that let me show you something. If this nothing is there, then the Jira is showing some example. Okay, 2 week, it means 2 weeks means, like this work required 2 weeks of time. 4 day 6h 45m. So you can use these abbreviations while writing the estimate. So you can write estimate in weeks, in days, hours, or minutes. Okay, in this case developers are telling 20 hours is good enough to write this story. Now what is the change? The moment I write 20 hour, it's converted to 2 day 4 hour. It means it is defined in Jira that 8 hours is considered as 1 day. So 20 hours is considered as 2 day and 4 hours. Okay. Now PMS 12. Okay. Now I have to go back to the previous story. So I click on PMS 4 now. So here I see the second one. Implement user registration logic. User registration logic, suppose it require service needs to be developed, and then the service needs to be integrated with your front end, or whatever is the reason, but developers are telling it require more work, and suppose 30 hours of work is needed. Okay, 30h I updated and I saved it. It is converted into 3 day, which is 8 3 are 24 plus 4 plus 6, 30 hours. Okay, so second estimate also done. Okay, now third one. Third one, they are telling, okay, validation we have to add. So it will take 20 hour of work to add the validation, and that's it. So now, well, estimate is added, and we are back to our story. So now, if you come to story, what is the main thing what I want to show here is everything same for this story. These are the three subtasks. For each of these subtasks, we have defined how much effort is needed, and based on that, the total time is given here: 1 week, 3 day, 6 hours require to complete this story. Okay, so that is the estimate. Okay, that's how it works. Sometimes what happens, for this particular story there are say three subtasks, and once all these subtasks are completed, then for this story you have to work for suppose 4 hours. So in this original estimate you can write 4h. I'm just giving you a random example. Okay, so now what happens? Now it says after completing these three subtasks, 4 hour extra you have to work. So altogether to complete this story, you need to spend 1 week, 4 day, 2 hours. Okay, so this 1 week, 4 day, 2 hour is calculated for one particular developer. If three developers are working in parallel, then the time will be reduced accordingly. Okay, but for one developer, that is how the time will be calculated. So this is how we enter the estimate. Okay, now I will go back to backlog and I will create the sprint. Okay, so now see, one thing I am not going to talk about in this particular example is like detailed calculation, but what I want you people to understand is this one. Today is 17th, Sunday. Tomorrow is 18th of September. Okay, so I'm just assuming 18th September sprint is started. So 18th September, okay, 5 days sprint. First week, then 23rd, 24th, Saturday, Sunday, again 25 September, and 5 days. Okay, so now I have these 10 working days. Okay, developer, you have to do this calculation to understand how many developers are working for your team. If developer one is working for 8 hours in a day, so these many hours are there for you throughout the week. Okay, so altogether I have 240 hours of work I can do in one sprint. Now, how much is the estimate given by developer, and based on the priority, you can decide how many stories can be done in sprint one, how many stories can be done in sprint two, and so on. So this calculation is completely up to us and depends on how many developers are available. If only two developers are there, then it will be changed to 160 hours. Okay? Like that. So I'll switch back to Jira, and now let me create the sprint. Okay. So how will I create the sprint? You go, you the sprint will be created from backlog option only. Okay. So you should be on the Jira, and then in the left hand side bar you should be on the backlog option. Now, first sprint is automatically created. PMS sprint one. That is like the default sprint which is created by Jira on its own. So first sprint we have to define certain things. Okay, like I'm clicking on when you see sprint one, zero issues, add dates. So let me add the date. Okay, date will be what? Starting date will be Monday 18th till 29th. Okay, so this is my date. Sprint goal, I have to write like some sprint goal. So what is a sprint goal? User authentication system to be developed and deployed in production. You are free to write anything, there is no specific way, but when you read the sprint goal, you should be able to understand that what is that we are going to do in this particular sprint. Okay, this is sprint one goal. Update. So now sprint one is there. We have changed the date here now, and we have written the sprint goal. Now, what all tasks we are going to, because in the goal we have written we are going to perform user authentication. So I am going to pull only user authentication story, dragging and dropping. So my sprint one is created. Okay. Now let me create another sprint. I am creating another sprint. So automatically 2nd October to 13th October, this date is chosen. Okay, I'll just click on this dot 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 in the right hand side, and I will edit this sprint. Okay, so date is automatically chosen 2nd October till 13th October. Now I have to write the sprint goal. Implement product backlog. Sorry, product backlog. Okay, update, and that's it. Now I will just bring these product catalog story to the second one, second sprint. Okay, done. Now let me create the third sprint. Third sprint automatically date is chosen. So like it is by when we gave the date for the first sprint, Jira calculated it, and that's like as a machine learning. It is they are using it and calculating the sprint cadence, like 2 weeks. So 16 to 27th. So what I have to do, I just have to edit the sprint, and I have to write the sprint goal, which is implement something start, not date. And then all these three I will move to sprint 3. So what happened? Let me show you. So I moved all these story into sprint 3. So now I have created 3 sprint from my backlog. So now again backlog is changed to 0 issues. It means there is no other task. All the tasks we have converted into a sprint, and this will give you the plan that if you start the work on 18th of September, then by 27th of October you should be able to complete this project. Okay, so that is what is sprint. So the stuff what we used to see inside backlog is referred as product backlog. But now we have estimated the story, we have identified how many subtasks are needed, we have given the estimate in hours, and then based on the calculation we have decided that these story will be done in sprint 1, these story will be done in sprint 2, and these story will be done in sprint 3. So this is what creates the sprint backlog. Okay, so this is sprint 1 backlog, these 3 story. Sprint 2 backlog, these 2 story. Sprint 3 backlog, these 3 story. Okay, so that's what sprint planning. So I hope this helps you to understand. If you have any doubt, any question, please do let me know, and through comment, and I will try my best to solve your query and clarify your doubts. If you have any question on any of the point, you can mention in the comment, and I will revert on that. So now we are going to see the second Scrum ceremony, which is daily Scrum. See, daily Scrum is very simple. Now, what is important? How daily Scrum is managed? It is managed through active sprint. But when you come here on active sprint, you see there is nothing. Okay, so how we are going to track the task? So for that, we have to go to backlog, and we have to start the sprint. Until you start the sprint, your monitoring is not going to start. So we can do the planning before the sprint start date, but when on the day 1 of the sprint, which is 18th of September, we will click on start sprint. Okay, so the moment you click on start sprint, it will select, because we are clicking start sprint on day before, so it changed the date, but I again changed back to 18 September and click on start. Okay, so now the moment I clicked on start, I automatically moved from backlog to active sprint. Okay, so we were there in backlog, sprint 1 already started, and when you come to active sprint, you see 3 columns: to do, in progress, and done. So from here, like the tracking will start. Now, how many developers are there? Which story, which task is assigned to which developer? Based on that, we have to do our daily scrum. As we know, in daily scrum, we talk about very specific target stuff. Okay, and what is the target stuff? In daily scrum, we talk about what I did yesterday, what will I do today, and if there are any impediment for me. Okay, so that's the same approach we are going to use here. So if I am the developer, I will say, okay, from today I am starting work on this create registration form. Okay, so if I have started working on this particular task, then the respective developer should pull the ticket into in progress column. It means anyone who has access to this Jira board, they will come to know that this particular task has been started. Okay. Now implement user registration logic. The other developer has started working on this ticket also. Okay. So he will say, okay, I have started working on this particular ticket. Okay. Suppose we are going with assumption. Okay. So only two developers are there, they both have started working on this ticket. Okay, so and there is no impediment because this is the first day. That's it. Scrum call over. Okay, second day, 19th of September, again the call started, and the call will be started. Scrum master is facilitating, and developer one will say, okay, so yesterday what all activity he has done on create registration form, what he is going to do today, and if he is having any issue or everything is going fine, he will give the update. And based on that, he can add, like some comment in the story. Okay, how the comment will be added? He should be clicking on the story, he should be writing, okay, so form design is done, for example. First day over, second day, he is supposed, adding screen component and customizing look. And technically, I don't know exactly, but I'm just giving one example. So that is how they should be adding the comments here, so that this will make the system more transparent. And that is what is the objective of agile methodology and Scrum. Okay. Similar way, the second developer will say, okay, I have started working on user registration logic. I have done this, I have done that, and if I have an issue, I can say, okay, I need help on this particular piece, something like that, and that call will be over. So that is what we do in the daily Scrum. Okay, so that's all for daily Scrum. The one thing is important, like suppose for example, implement user registration logic. While working on this, if there are any issue and developer is stuck, then he should not be discussing about that stuff during the call. He can raise that to the scrum master, and once the call gets over, it is a scrum master's responsibility to make sure that his issue is resolved, so that he can start working on it. Otherwise, the next day the update will be same. So here the Scrum Master's role is very very critical to resolve all the impediments. Okay, so that's for daily Scrum. Let's move to the next Scrum ceremony. So the next Scrum ceremony is sprint review. Sprint review is what? Sprint review is happening on the last day of the sprint. So for this particular sprint, how will I know that which sprint is? Oh, sorry, which particular day we are on it. So if you see the top of the sprint name, where we see the sprint name PMS sprint 1, in the right hand side, if you scroll, you will see 9 days remaining, and if you mouse over, it will say that 18th September till 29th September sprint will be running. Assume we are on 29th of September. So what is the ideal situation expected on 29th of September? On 29th of September, I should expect that this task is completed, this task is completed, this task is completed. Okay. So when I say update parent issue, so the parent issue is automatically converted to done. The other issue, this also I assume this should be completed. The next story also should be completed. It means all three stories should be in completed state if you talk about the final day of the sprint, 29th of September. And when the 29th of September this all the stories are completed, then we should be showing the demo to the stakeholder. In the sprint review call, we should be having the scrum team, scrum master, product owner, and very very importantly we should be having stakeholder who are the final customer, who are the actual user of the software what we are developing, and they will see what we have developed, and that is what is called sprint review. Who will do the review? Developers will be sharing their screen and they will be showing the demo to the customer. And I will, once the demo is done, demo is completed, the sprint will be completed. Three issues were done: complete sprint one and complete. So the moment we complete the sprint, we will be switched to this sprint report. Here all the details will be given about the status about our sprint. And once the sprint gets over, we have to go for sprint retrospective. Okay, so let's start with the final scrum ceremony sprint retrospective. Sprint retrospective has nothing to do with Jira and the sprint board, because this is about our approach and our culture or the practices we are following during the sprint cycle. Okay, so normally how we do sprint retrospective, it is a structured call, and there are some certain templates or certain formats are given in Word, Excel, or Confluence. Wherever it is feasible, you can choose that. For example, here there is one template in Confluence also. Let me show that Confluence page to you, how that can be open. So this is very clear, right? That the sprint retrospective will happen after the sprint gets closed. After that, after 1 day, 2 day, you should be planning the sprint retrospective and have this discussion. So let me open the Confluence first. Okay, so to open the Confluence, I will go here in the top left, and then I will click on Confluence. It will open the Confluence page, and in the Confluence page, how I can open the template for retrospective, I will click on create. So it will create one document. In the top right there are templates given. Okay, in the search, let me search for retrospective. Yes, retrospective. Okay, I clicked on it. So this is the template, like, given for this retrospective. You can give the date and the team name and participant who all joined the call. Those details you can mention here. And if people who are already a member of that respective Jira, then you can refer, like, add sign, and you can refer their name. So that way also you can give the participant name if you are using Confluence as an option. Now retrospective, see, this is one of the way this template is created: start doing, stop doing, and keep doing. So we have already seen that in our previous Scrum ceremony presentation, that what we discuss in a sprint retrospective, we discuss what went well, what did not work well, and what can be done differently. Okay, so the similar way, the the information is being asked here. So what went well, that we should keep doing. What didn't go well, we should stop doing. And then whatever is the best practices is discussed, we should start doing. Based on all these points, we should be agree certain action point, and there can be possibility that action points are on with different set of user. Scrum Master is just facilitating, but action point can be with Scrum Master, can be with developer, whatever it is. Whoever is the action owner, he should be working on the action and ensure that the action has been taken. And in the next retrospective, before we discuss about keep doing, stop doing, or on and start doing, we should first talk about the action point agreed in the previous retrospective, and if that is implemented or not. If implemented, what is, how it reflects during the discussion, that we'll see. And if it is not implemented, then we have to see what is the issue and what is the blocker. Like the that's a general approach, like for any of the action point which is not implemented. But in general, that is how the retrospective works. I hope this helps you people to understand retrospective and all the Scrum ceremony. If you have any doubt, any question about any of the Scrum ceremony, whatever we have discussed, or we have taken one example, one use case for online bookstore. If you have any of the question on that particular scenario with regard to any of the Scrum ceremony, please post your comment and I will try my best to respond on that at earliest as possible. Thank you so much.